In the 1960s and early 1970s, scientists were running experiments to understand addiction. They took ordinary laboratory rats and placed them into small, isolated cages. These cages had almost nothing inside. No toys, no other rats, no stimulation at all. The rats were completely alone. Then, the researchers gave each rat a choice: 2 water bottles. One contained plain water. The other was mixed with morphine or heroin, powerful opiates. The rats didn't hesitate for a second. They went straight to the drugged water and started drinking it obsessively. The rats didn't hesitate for a second. They went straight to the drugged water and started drinking it obsessively. They ignored the plain water completely. They kept drinking until their bodies couldn't take it anymore. Many of them overdosed. Many died. The results seemed clear and terrifying. The drugs were so powerful that they completely took over the rats' brains and destroyed them. At the time, almost everyone reached the same conclusion. These substances were so addictive that once an animal tried them, it was game over. The chemical itself was irresistible. The drug was the problem. But one psychologist named Bruce Alexander looked at those results and felt something was missing. He thought the experiments were too limited. The rats weren't just facing a drug. They were facing total isolation and boredom. What if the cage itself was making the drug so appealing? So Alexander decided to test a radical new idea. Instead of keeping rats in tiny, empty cages, he built something completely different, something he called Rat Park. Rat Park was enormous compared to a normal lab cage, roughly 200 times bigger. Inside were platforms to climb on, running wheels to spin, tin cans and tunnels to hide in, and wood chips to dig through. It was a rich, stimulating environment. And instead of living alone, 16 to 20 rats lived together in the park, males and females. They could socialize, play, mate, explore, and form relationships. It was basically rat paradise. Then, Alexander gave them the exact same choice the other rats had: plain water or morphine-laced water. And the results were completely different from everything scientists had seen before. The isolated cage rats behaved exactly as expected. They drank massive amounts of the drugged water and became heavily addicted. But the rats in Rat Park mostly ignored the morphine water. They would try it occasionally, but they didn't obsess over it. They clearly preferred the plain water. Even when the morphine water was sweetened to make it taste better, the Rat Park rats still didn't want it. They chose to be sober and active in their community rather than sedated and alone. This was a massive shift in understanding. It suggested that addiction isn't just about the chemical properties of a drug, it's about the environment the animal is in. But Alexander wanted to take it even further. He wanted to know if a rat that was already addicted could recover if its environment changed. So he took rats and kept them in the isolated cages for 57 days, more than enough time to get them heavily addicted to morphine. Then he moved those addicted rats into Rat Park. He gave them a choice: the morphine they were now dependent on, or plain water in a new, healthy community. And something incredible happened. Once the rats were in Rat Park, they started cutting back on the morphine. They went through withdrawal, which is physically painful and difficult, but they chose to do it. They chose to be part of the community rather than stay trapped in their addiction. They actually got better because their environment got better. Now, it's important to remember that humans aren't rats. Our lives and our brains are much more complex. But Bruce Alexander's work forced us to look at addiction in a completely different way. For a long time, our society's approach to addiction has been based on the idea of the isolated cage. We've treated it as a purely chemical problem or a moral failure. We've often punished people by isolating them even more, taking them away from their families, their jobs, and their communities, which is basically putting them into a smaller, lonelier cage. But if Rat Park is right, then the opposite of addiction isn't just sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. Think about the world we live in today. In many ways, our modern society can feel like an isolated cage. We are more connected than ever through technology, but many of us feel more alone than ever. We spend hours in front of screens. We live in houses separated from our neighbors, and our sense of community is often thin. We have created a high-pressure, high-isolation environment. And in that environment, we find all sorts of things to distract us or numb the pain of isolation. It's not just drugs or alcohol. It can be gambling, social media, shopping, or anything that gives us a temporary hit of dopamine to fill the void. We are often like those rats in the empty cages, reaching for whatever bottle is available because we don't have a park to live in. Bruce Alexander's message is that if we want to solve the problem of addiction, we have to look beyond the individual and look at the cage. We have to build a better park for ourselves and for each other. We need environments where people feel seen, heard, and valued. We need real, deep human connection. We need a sense of purpose and a community to belong to. Because when we have those things, the drugs and the distractions lose their power. When we are in a healthy park, we don't need the bottle as much. This doesn't mean that the chemical side of addiction doesn't exist. It does. But it means that the social side is just as important, maybe even more so. It's a call to action for all of us, to stop judging and starting connecting, to stop building bigger cages and start building better parks. Because in the end, we all deserve to live in a world where we can be sober, active, and connected. We all deserve a rat park of our own. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe for more stories like this. And remember, connection is the key. See you in the next one.